So today we are again so honored to have the presence of Michael Reccia, who brought through the 8 books of the Joseph Communication series. And today we're going to be discussing 2 of the books, From Here to Infinity and The Spaces Between. The 8th book, the final book in the series, unless another book comes along. So, so the first book I think we're going to talk about is From Here to Infinity. And I just want to read the capture for this book. This was the 6th book in the series, and the highly evolved spirit Joseph, representing the elevated viewpoint of the soul group that he belongs to, addresses such highly significant earthly paradigms as time, space, infinity, and the nature of the divine. So, Michael, that is a gigantic concept. And so I'm going to turn it over to you and your wonderful expertise to share with our viewers what they will find in From Here to Infinity.
Well, it's quite a claim, isn't it? It's not your ordinary book, not your average book. I think we explained earlier in our interviews that there is an arc to Joseph's narrative, and that he would prepare us for a set of instructions, of information, and then would move on to expand on that and expand on that. And by the time we get to From Here to Infinity, we already know from Your Life After Death that heaven is a moving target. It's not somewhere that you instantly find yourself in, having left the physical life behind. And he explains through the fall that there are a number of realities beyond this one, expanding vibrations, if you like, that exist to cleanse us of the effects of the fall. We put ourselves into a very heavy vibration, and we have to come out of that gradually. Now, these are beautiful places. These are heaven worlds, but they are not our ultimate destination. And Joseph puts the metaphor in place at the end of the last sphere, as it were, the last cleansing sphere, of the trapdoor. And he says, we can go through the hatch, through the trapdoor, and we emerge when we want to, it's down to us as everything is, into infinity. So you can regard these, the cleansing spheres around the earth as eternity, but beyond eternity, there is infinity. And what's infinity? How do you describe this multi-dimensional place in words, in ink on paper? Joseph does a very good job of doing so, and explains that infinity is a sea of potential. Infinity is an area where we exist in our angelic form and exist within the angelic host. So we are reconnected to that spiritual family that we left so long ago, before the time of the fall. He also explains that once we're into infinity, we can once again create in bliss. And we can connect to other members of the angelic host. We can form little groups or larger groups as we wish to, and work on particular projects. And the particular project might be the creation of an entirely new planet, with an entirely new set of circumstances that the angelic host can move through when they visit that planet, and as a result of that, add to their experience and the experience of the Godhead. But Joseph also says that infinity is not, as with everything, not outside ourselves, it's also within ourselves. And so he spends part of the book exploring the infinite capabilities that we have now as the angels that we really are, and how we can use those infinite capabilities to transmit light into the world to change things here, and to create the better world that we all want. So it's a two-way journey. It's a journey outwards into an amazing place that is described in great detail, and it is a journey inwards to an equally amazing place that is within us, within our hearts, and what we can accomplish from that viewpoint too.
Well, Michael, would we have to do the inward travel before we could do that outward travel?
Indeed.
And
yeah. Yes, we have to discover ourselves. And the personas that we have, that we interact with people from that viewpoint, are just a surface persona. There is a deeper persona. There is a deeper well of knowledge. There is a deeper well of capability. And in order to reach that deep well, we have to be able to take some time off, some time out each day of our lives, even if it's only for a few minutes, to get in touch with ourselves and to become used to communicating with ourselves and to become used to using our angelic senses rather than our physical and mental senses. And once we plug into those senses, a whole new vista and way of life opens up for us. We can never see things in the same way again. You know, we can't make this journey unless we're prepared for the great positive changes that will happen to us. If we're not, then we mustn't take this journey. But if we are, there are wonders within us. There is a wonderful way of operating that makes us self-sufficient, that makes us self-reliant on the knowledge that we have within our hearts, and that allows us in all circumstances in our lives to make the correct decisions for ourselves and for everyone that we interact with. It's infallible. Most people, or many people, many souls on this planet go outside of themselves looking for answers, for guidance, for direction, for advice. That is a limited way of living. The direction, the advice, the guidance that we need is within ourselves. But we have to put the time in order to make that connection, to recognize what is happening to us, and to interpret the messages we get from ourselves, from our greater selves, via our heart centers.
Absolutely. But, you know, I kind of feel like, I guess I must have been going inside looking for some truth. I'm a quadruple Sagittarius. I think I'm all about truth and travel. And that eventually led me outside to this series of books. And that, you know, it just resonated with me so that there's so much truth contained within these books that it provides an understanding that really resonates and makes sense. And one thing that I didn't have before, but I started since reading these books, is a regular spiritual meditative practice. And do you feel that's something that would benefit? Is that one of the ways to the inside door?
It's absolutely essential. When you consider how noisy, how demanding our world is, particularly in our current world of advanced technology, we are constantly at the computer screen, or the phone screen, or the television screen, or we have something plugged into our ears, or we're talking to somebody, or there is music and there is noise and there's input. We have input all the time, but it's surface to surface input. We have input from the media. We have input from our computers. We have input from social media. And we are being bombarded all the time with so much noise and so much busyness. And our spiritual path lies in stillness. However, we make more progress in stillness in a few minutes of meditation than we do in a full day of being bombarded by so much noise and so much friction and so many opinions and so many viewpoints. We have to be able to switch that off at some stage every day and to say, no, stop. This far and no further today, because I'm going to connect to myself. And when I connect to myself, I will receive images, senses, guidance that will show me my true path and what I must do. And it is not up to anyone else to tell me what I must do. It is up to me, my higher self, and my God to decide what is right for me. And then you learn how to react and act on the information that you receive from your heart center, and you build up a pattern that says, yes, every time I receive something from within, it's the right thing for me. It's the right way to go. It's the right signpost. It's the right, I take the right path at the crossroads. And so it's a very, very valuable exercise to to meditate and to become still every day, and to give some time to you so that you can expand.
Well, it just reminds me of the words from the Bible. Be still and know I am God.
Absolutely. Yes. And very, very wonderful words. No, I am God. I
Right,
am. You are.
right. You know,
Be
it's
still and know that you are God. You are the divine. You are connected to the divine. What more guidance do you need? You know, you make that connection and all else is added.
right. And that's, uh, you know, I'm just wondering, you've had so many experiences with Joseph, and um, has he ever taken you to these, have you ever experienced going to any of these spheres, or is Joseph is he in one of the spheres? Is he communicating to us? Is he
He,
part of infinity?
he has earned the right to move on into infinity, as have many of his soul group brothers and sisters, soul group family. But they remain on this side of the hatch, on our side of the hatch, because of their insistence that every spirit involved in the fall, that's all of us, gets out. No one is left behind on Joseph's watch. Now, that is a wonderful sacrifice, because that spirit has the right to go out into this blissful area of creativity and love and harmony and family, and chooses instead to wait and to instruct and to elevate every soul on earth until every soul on earth has escaped from the effects of the fall, and then we all go through the hatch together. So he's on this side of infinity. But he has shown me various workings of elevated spheres over the years. I was once taken by the soul group to witness the workings of a group soul, to see what it would be like. And I found myself flying. I found myself flying over a completely flat landscape. There was no curvature as you would see from a plane of the earth, for example. Completely flat, but very beautiful. Beautiful trees of different colors. A silver river, actual silver colored river threading through the landscape. There were boats on this river. And as we were flying through the air, and I was flying with members of the soul group, because I'm frightened of heights. And
Most
yet,
pilots are.
and yet, in my spirit form, I wasn't frightened at all. I wasn't frightened of being what appeared to be thousands of feet up in the air. And we came to rest. I touched down on this perfect grass in this beautiful landscape. And so members of a group soul, I'm not sure it was Joseph's group soul, but a group soul, all dressed in similar robes. The light that they gave off was identical. And they were working at some project. They were spaced out across this landscape, but there was a connection of spiritual mind so that they could do whatever they wanted to do, but part of them was also working on a group project, if that makes sense.
Wow.
And two of the figures who were closest to me pointed to, there was a big boulder next to them.
Okay.
And they pointed to this boulder and they said, this boulder is part of our soul group. In other words, and they said, everything in this landscape is part of our soul group. We don't make a distinction between a human spirit and the spirit of this rock and the spirit of the trees and the grass. It is all one, treated with equal respect, with equal love, and with equal sense of purpose. I looked up into the sky and I could see colored streaks coming past at speed. It looked like missiles were coming towards me, different colors. And I wondered what these emanations were. But as they came close to me, I could see that they were spirits, they were people who were moving themselves from point A to point B across this landscape simply by wanting to be somewhere else. And so they were traveling in the air, and there were these beautiful colored streaks behind them, and they were wearing colored robes. The whole, when I came back to earth, when the meditation ended, when they brought me back into my body, I couldn't come to terms with the earth for about 3 weeks. Everything looked as though it was a stage set. Now,
Yeah.
in my former incarnation as somebody that produces or produced hobby titles, I used to go down to the film studios in the UK, to Shepperton and to Pinewood Film Studios, and they would take me onto film sets. And film sets look wonderful from within them, but when you go around the back of them, they are simply flats of wood, and
Right.
they are nailed together, and
Mhm.
the illusion is broken.
Mhm.
And when I came back from that soul group experience, for 3 weeks, everything on earth seemed to be a stage set. It wasn't real. I had no interest in it. And it was only when my vibration settled down to this level did this level seem real again.
Wow.
So I was taken outside of the illusion, is my meaning.
Mhm.
And coming back into the illusion, having gone to a higher plane,
Mhm.
it was very obvious that this is an illusion.
Well, you got a bird's eye view of this
Yes,
illusion.
literally a bird's eye view, yeah.
So they, when they took you through that meditation, then effectively your vibration was raising that whole time for you to have that experience.
Yes,
And that
yes.
was something that you generated yourself?
There was help in doing it. I wouldn't have been able to see any of that had my vibration as a spirit, not as a physical being, not been compatible with that.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we can't normally see the people who come to talk to us from high vibrations,
Right.
because we have to match, equalize those vibrations in order to tune into them. It's like tuning in a TV set.
Right.
You've got to be on a particular frequency in order to appreciate what is being directed along that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so they elevated me from the cares of the day. There was a process to do that so that I could appreciate what was happening. On other occasions, I've been taken to see Joseph's soul group, and it is a familiar path. It is a path that leads up the side of a mountain, and halfway through along this path, there is a beautiful waterfall that pours down over the path. It isn't water, it's light.
Wow.
And you enter into this waterfall. You actually pass through it. And as you pass through it, it cleanses you of the vibrations of the earth. So that when you get to the other side, your vibration has elevated itself so that you can appreciate and see and hear the activities of the soul group.
Wow.
And you look down on this wonderful, it's almost Tolkien-esque landscape.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like Middle Earth. It's wonderful. You look down and you're looking off from the side of this mountain at beautiful trees and bushes and fields and perfect hills and mountains. It's indescribable. It's absolutely perfect. And so I've done that many times to be able to talk to the soul group. I've also found myself listening to lectures within the soul group's dimension,
Mm-hmm.
in that you find yourself suddenly in a huge amphitheater, huge. And there are spirits in colored robes all around this circle, all around this circle. And there are lecterns in the center. And advanced spirits from higher vibrations come to talk to those spirits in the amphitheater. And waves of light and love emanate out from them as they're speaking. And there is just this sense of family and excitement of what is being transmitted and being presented with wonderful spiritual information. Again, an experience that cannot easily be translated into words.
Wow. Well, I have a question for you, Michael. In From Here to Infinity, um, it talks about the paradigms, earthly paradigms such as time
Yeah.
and space. So when you're on that side, how, this is the only thing, not the only thing, but one of the major things I can't get my head wrapped around is that the concept that we're in this timeline, and when I guess you're on that other side, what happens to time?
Well, it is still linear, but Joseph describes time as being progression of experience and nothing more.
Mm-hmm.
So what we perceive of as time here is in effect our gathering of experience, of further experience. That's what's happening. But we've labeled it time. And also on spiritual levels, you find that you can multitask. For example, you could sit and watch that lecture, and you could still be in your spiritual home, making something beautiful. And you could also be talking to someone, a friend or a family member in terms of the soul group at the same time, because we can, it's all experience, and it depends where we wish to put our experience and how much of ourselves we wish to put into any particular experience. We can have a 20% experience here and a 50% experience here and a 30% experience there at the same time, because there is no time.
Wow. Well, how does the Akashic Records fit into all of these, into the Joseph communication?
Well, they're there and they have a purpose.
Okay.
And the purpose is with the permission of the spirits who own the records, who have produced the records. In other words, each record is a record of the lives and experiences of that spirit. Mm-hmm. Those records are accessible for all with the permission of the spirit in each case that has produced the record, in order to enhance the experience of the all, the whole and the all. Mm-hmm. And yes, the records exist. The records exist.
And also, would you speak about karma?
Yes, karma. Yeah. Karma is, it's not what we feel it is. It's not adding positive or negative karma to our experience. Karma exists on this level in that when we reincarnate, having chosen to do so, mm-hmm. the consequences of our past lives, the patterns of our past lives that we've put out into the ether, are still there. They have a vibrational signature and they are still there because of the reasons we discussed in the fall, that we cannot completely create or destroy matter, as create or dissipate matter is a better word to use, as we do as the angelic beings we really are, and as we did before the fall. So we come back into this magnetic theater of experience, and because we have a signature that is similar to those experiences that we've put out into the ether previously, we attract them again. Mm. And so inevitably, the patterns of our past lives, the things that we haven't resolved to our satisfaction, cluster around us. And off we go again for one more ride on the merry-go-round.
Well, when we're in the cleansing spheres, after we pass over, why don't we cleanse out those vibrations?
Well, we do, but we have to resolve issues. Mm-hmm. In our own minds, in our own spiritual minds, there are aspects of our lives where we feel, I haven't sorted that out, or I haven't resolved that in the way that I wanted to. And also in our own minds, there are ways that we relate to other spirits that prevent us from experiencing the bliss of vibration that we would experience if we were more loving, more harmonious with those spirits. And so via the life review, which is covered in Your Life After Death, mm-hmm. we look at our current life and we look at points where we did very well, and we look at points where we perhaps didn't do so well. Mm-hmm. And then in our own time, we work out a path that will allow us to resolve those issues, to elevate ourselves from those circumstances that still drag us down and prevent us from expanding spiritually into infinity.
Mm-hmm. So let's say that I go to the other side and I'm going through the cleansing spheres, and then I'm counseled and they said, you know, really don't go back down to earth, Noel. And I say, but I have some unresolved stuff. And they could say, well, you can resolve them elsewhere.
Here.
Have to go to earth to resolve them?
You can resolve it in these spheres. You can work it out in these spheres. You don't have to go back to earth if you don't want to. Okay. You don't have to go through all that misery again unless you want to. And the unfortunate thing is that many spirits say, I want to. I'd like to. It's the only thing I know, and this time I'll get it right. Well, you can't say that. You can only say that this time you will be faced with the same circumstances, and you can attempt to resolve those circumstances. But there's no guarantee, because you are placing yourself back in the dense vibration of the earth plane, and as a result, you are subject to the same temptations, the same weaknesses, the same health problems, the same material problems. And it all looks so easy from the spiritual side of life, but once you're back in it, you're back in it.
Okay, so obviously I went back in it many
And
times.
me, as did I, yeah.
I guess that was so we could meet up, Michael, and try to get this message out, right?
Absolutely, no, yeah, absolutely. In all seriousness, yes.
We're on a mission. We're definitely on a mission.
Yeah.
So you spoke about time. Speak to us about space, what Michael has to say about space.
Well, Joseph says that
Joseph.
there is no distance. There is no distance. Everything takes place within us, but we, in order to experience, push things out at a perceived distance, but that distance isn't really there. Mm-hmm. And that everything, there are no, we'll come on to this with the spaces between, but right. there is no space in the sense of there being an empty void. There is only the spiritual oneness of everything. And the areas in the seeming void are actually areas of potential. And there is an awful lot going on in those areas that we cannot see with our physical eyes. So space is another illusion. And space is something that we put between ourselves, isn't it? You know, we distance ourselves from people. And so on a metaphysical level, there's no space either, because we are not separate. We are one organism. We are the divine. We are different facets, different viewpoints of the divine, but there is no separation. And if we acknowledged that and embraced that, then what a different world it would be. If we acknowledged that the other is also us and is equal of our respect and our love and our nurturing, then it would, the world would change today. The world would change today. But no, we fear the other. We fear difference. We fear different viewpoints. And they're only different viewpoints from the point of view of us being individual facets. Spiritually, at heart, we're exactly the same thing.
Wow. If only, well, we're working on it.
We're working on it, yeah.
Let's transition now. You mentioned the spaces between.
Just got a little reading from Here to Infinity. That's okay now.
Fabulous.
I thought with each of the books, if I just gave people a little taster. This is from the chapter on infinity. It's from the end of Infinity. And as you know, having read the books, at the end of each chapter, Joseph would invite David and Jane and Tony to ask questions, to further the subject that he'd been covering. And so this is a question from David at the end of the chapter on infinity. And David asks, Joseph, what is the connection between potential and light? I know people that read the book sometimes have trouble in understanding the wielding of the light. Would it be beneficial to them to think of the wielding of potential? And Joseph says, let us see how we can better describe this. As an analogy, light is a sea of potential. It is a block of marble with you as the sculptor. What will you make from that block? You can make anything, but you have to manipulate the marble and have to, as some sculptors say, release the form within the marble to reveal the sculpture. So the light is the marble. Perhaps marble seems too hard a surface as an analogy, but I suppose it is as good as any. And you are the sculptor. You look at the marble and you see within it whatever you want to see. What do you want to see? Are you going to create a statue of a man? Are you going to create an abstract? Are you going to create a geometric shape? And then you set about with the tools at hand, your ability to wield the light, and you shape the marble into whatever you want it to be. Potential is what can be, what might be. And you need to use your ability to dream, to see the better world that you want. When you do that, you activate and draw towards you the aspects within the marble that you want to bring out of it. It is simply a matter of applying through light that vision of a better world over the current vision of the world. You can draw the light towards you as a beam from a sea of light, and then see it in your imagination being generated out from your heart into areas of the world that you want to change. See those areas illuminated. See them becoming lighter. See the grayness falling away from them. You can beam this light into people's hearts and minds and into hostile situations, always seeing the good, always seeing your vision of what you would like the world to be in the name of God. So you are creating as you create as an angelic being, but within the confines of the fall. You are no less limited except by your perception. You are the sculptor. You draw from that sea of light what you want to produce from it. And not only can you draw from the sea of light, but you can project it. You can project it to the people and areas of the world you want to surround with light, and you change them. You bring out a new sculpture and a new vision. And he says, is that any easier, David? And David says, yes, thank you. And Joseph concludes, it is a difficult subject, not to use, but to describe. You are pulling that material from an infinite source of materials and then shaping it in line with your vision for a better world, for better conditions for people, for God conditions for people, for a restoration back to the state of things before the fall. You are the manipulator. You are the sculptor. You draw on that infinite supply of light and you mold it. You sculpt it. You apply it. You direct it. And it changes things.
Well, that is an excellent selection for this time. And we need to add the urgency to it, to vision what, who we are and what we really want for this planet and for each other. Wow, thank you for that. And one thing, I'm just going to put a little postscript here to folks, is that one thing I love about the series of books is that the information is so accessible. It's so easy to read, but then, but still goes very, very deep. So it's a series of books that you probably will read over and over again, because each time being able to go deeper with the information, and for myself, being able to hold on to more of it. But it's, I just have to say, I just feel very comfortable reading it. Does that sound kind of weird? It just feels like someone's really chatting with me and guiding me and speaking to me in a language that I can really understand and grasp onto. So thank you for that. Well, now I think we'll segue over to the spaces between.
Yes.
Which is the arc, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And so, Michael, I would like you to tell us how, after someone has followed the journey through all of these, the messages and quite some novel information came through in the spaces between. Would you like to take us there?
Yes. Joseph, in his final book, thus far, as we've said,
So you go back to work.
Literally asks us to look at the spaces between us and the world, and us and the universe, and to discover in those spaces that they are not empty spaces at all, but are teeming with spiritual life. And we believe ourselves to be the dominant species on this planet. And that's not so. That's an arrogance. And we cohabit this planet with other forms of life, of course. We have the wonderful, beautiful animal kingdom and the flora and fauna. But on a spiritual level, we have the devas. We have a very strange word, demons. We have thought forms that, if we're not careful, can drain us of energy, and we create them. We have elementals, and we have various forms of life that have equal prominence to us And we once knew this, and we once interacted with them, and we've forgotten about them. And we ride roughshod over them through our actions on a physical level as we pollute and contaminate and destroy the planet and harm the animal kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you maybe could go into a little bit more depth on some of these, particularly the word demons. I'm sure that makes some antennas go up, thinking like, what's he talking about?
Yes, I don't want to take away from Joseph's narrative on demons, but in a nutshell, what he's saying is that demonic forces do exist, but it is not their fault. And I'll expand on that in a moment. Okay. In that, we once had knowledge, and that knowledge still exists at a certain level, as to how to control elemental forces. And we once had knowledge as to how to harness elemental forces in order to cause great destruction. So demons are not what they appear to be. They are innocent spirits that have been corrupted, that have been controlled, that have been sent out to create mayhem. And you might think, well, that sounds like something from Lord of the Rings. That's absolute nonsense. Let me tell you about a contemporary situation that happened to me and to our group a few years ago. There was a gentleman who was involved in promoting the books early on with us, and he had terrible problems with his home. He'd moved into a home with his wife and family, and it was a very negative place. His wife had got cancer whilst they were there. He hadn't slept properly for 3 years. Everything seemed to go wrong. And there was a care home across the street for elderly people. Mm-hmm. Now, you would expect people to move on to the spiritual realms from care homes because they're in the last stages of their physical life. But this was happening at an alarming rate. There was always an ambulance there. There was always a hearse there. And it was as though people were just exiting this world en masse from this care home. Mm-hmm. So he asked me in to look at what was happening. And he was a dowser. And independently of me, he identified the same ley lines that I could see psychically. And they were negative. There was nothing positive happening under the house and across the road in the care home. They were dead. In fact, it was almost like anti-energy, if you can have such a thing. And I tracked the source of this negativity to his garage. And in his garage, I came across something that I'd never seen before. I've seen nature spirits before. I've seen divas before. And there was a diva, a lady, as she appeared to me, mm-hmm. in a beautiful robe, in this garage, trapped in a web of vibration. And she had been trapped in that web of vibration for centuries by cruel souls on earth for whatever purpose, to use her energy. And I was moved to tears. I was so upset about this and I didn't know what to do. And so I asked the guiding influence who was working with me that day, what should we do? What do we do? And he got us to join hands in a circle around this spirit and to elevate through light the vibration that was around her. And the bonds, they were almost like cords of dark light that were around this lady, disappeared. And she was free. There was this wonderful sense of release. I'm free, I'm free. And she was in this beautiful, I think, golden robe, if I remember it rightly. And she moved out of the garage and we were exhausted. And then she came back in and she leant over and said in my ear, "Thank you." And she put into my hands a seed. And the seed grew into a golden tree as I watched it. And she said, "That's for the Joseph communications." And she was indicating how far and wide this message would go. And so, yes, we have in the past, we've forgotten some of the things that we are capable of doing. And these are not good things. And that we have used nature spirits, we've used divas to our own ends in the past, to our own ends in creating mayhem, in destruction of parts of the world, and you would call that demonic. But at the heart of that, there is an entrapped spirit that has been coerced into operating in a certain way, and their energies have been used negatively by a group of souls, human souls on earth that should know better.
So they were conscious that they were doing this. They knew.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, some of the earth changes that are going on now is there any particular spiritual definition for this? Some of the earth changes that are happening, or?
Well, I think the changes that are happening at the moment, the challenges that we're under, are as a result of the repeating pattern of the fall coming to the surface again. And Joseph has warned in all the books that unless we change, unless we put light into life, light into our interactions with each other, light into the world, light into the animal kingdom, then we are doomed to repeat the past. And we are at a pivotal time in that we have to acknowledge and embrace our spirituality and our spiritual origins now before it's too late. You see, we're denying part of ourselves. Each of us is denying what we really are, the greater part of ourselves. We're pushing that to one side and saying, no, I am not that thing. And in doing so, we are moving ourselves further and further consciously away from what we are. We cannot ever stop being spirits, but we can exclude that spirituality from our lives. And we can see the consequences of having done so. We're not talking about religion here. This is non-denominational. This is spiritual. We are cutting ourselves off from what we are. And we are therefore existing on head-mind energy. We're existing on the energy from the field of human consciousness, which is a finite amount of energy and is negatively charged. Whereas if we brought in energy into this world, into society, into the planet, from within our hearts, from within our connection to the divine, then we would redress the balance. We would re-energize everything, and we would harmonize everything and have the world that we all say we want, but so few of us want to work towards.
Right. So here's a loaded question for you.
Oh gosh.
Have we evolved?
Have we evolved? I don't know how to answer that. As a collective, as an angelic collective, which is what we are, in that we formed this world and then chose to experience it in a certain way, no, we haven't. No, we haven't. But evolution is a strange term because what we're really talking about is regaining our identities.
There we go.
We have always been angelic beings. That's what we are. We have to reach that point in that we have distanced ourselves from that point. But in the normal course of things, that is what we are. We don't have to evolve as much as enjoy our existence, enjoy the bliss of being what we are. But we've forgotten that. We've cut that off. And so evolution, in the way that we mean it on Earth, is to reconnect. And if the question is, have we reconnected? No, we haven't. If we had reconnected, we wouldn't be at this stage now.
Right.
And you can see how the negative aspects of society and the negative aspects of our lives are accelerating. But they can be negated. They can be transformed if we put the work in. And the work is not going out there and shouting about something, although we have to draw attention to things that are wrong. But we have to go in here and shout about things. We have to go in here and say, Father, Mother, Source, we need you. We need that energy. We need to be able to transmit that energy. And so on behalf of everyone, we go in daily, we find that energy and we stream it out into the world to elevate senses, to create a womb of light within which those souls who presently don't identify with their spirituality can be given time to think, can be given the energy to think, wait a minute, maybe there's a different way of life. Maybe I should investigate this. This is not coercion, it's not judgment, it's creating the right atmosphere, like propagating a plant, so that that plant can grow and bloom and blossom.
Absolutely. So we come full circle about be still and know I am God.
Absolutely. So simple, so simple. And yet we treat everything as though it's so complex. If it's not complex, it can't have any force in it. No, 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 no. Why would God hide the secrets of the universe from his children? There are no secrets. They are accessible, but they're accessible through simplicity. Be ye as a little child if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right.
The kingdom of heaven is there. It's there through simplicity.
Fabulous. Well, I know you have a reading that you'd like to share.
Yes, from the spaces between. Please, yeah.
It's just a fascinating book. I mean, it's, you know, you hate to say you have favorites, but it's just wonderful.
I think there are many occasions in Joseph's books where there is a reveal at the end of them. You think, oh my goodness. You know, we've had people write to us and say, I was in tears. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. But I'm not going to reveal any of those reveals. I'm going to read from the chapter, You Unbound, Builder of Worlds, Creator of Universes. And so, Joseph, this is a snapshot again from the far greater detailed chapter. So Joseph speaking, this is probably a far cry from how you have viewed your life thus far, particularly if you feel that you are 9 to 5, if you are part of a small family unit and feel you have to work to provide finances, or if you feel that you have a particular goal in mind, but that goal is nothing more than retirement and comfort prior to eventual death. None of this is what is really going on with you. And this is where the biggest space between occurs, a space between what you actually are and what you perceive yourself to be. This is a huge concept, but start to contemplate the fact that you are not at the mercy of what appears to be going on around you. What appears to be going on around you is actually going on within you, with you at the center of that energy bubble manipulating it. And you will say, I am not manipulating my life. My life is terrible, and I don't want these awful things to happen to me. But you are manipulating that bubble of reality or mini universe because you have taken that perception on board. You believe life to be bad. You believe there to be lack. You believe life to be limiting. You believe there to be pain. And as a result, you build all those things internally within your aura. And you move forwards through this life harmonizing with similar vibrations. And so your low vibrations are enhanced. Your sense of insecurity is enhanced. Your sense of ill health is enhanced. And your sense of lack is enhanced because you are the creator, creating it day after day after day after day. You are not at the whim of external forces. You are the force. You are the motivating force in your life that will eventually create worlds and stars and universes and beauty and experience for countless, countless billions of angelic souls. You. That is what you are capable of. There is much said in spiritual books about waking up and ascension. I wish you to wake up in the right way. I wish you to contemplate what has been said today so that you view yourself in a far different way than you have done thus far and become energized by the prospect of accomplishing so much, of never dying, of never coming to an end, of becoming more and more and more, of becoming more consciously integrated with God intent and evolution as time, in inverted commas, goes on, because of the experiences that you donate to the whole.
Wow. So in effect, we've been programmed and we need to reprogram ourselves.
We do. We're very used to reprogramming our computers and our technology. We need to reprogram and get rid of some. I mean, we have on our computers, don't we, a trash can, and we put all the stuff we don't need goes into the trash. And that's what we need to do with ourselves, to look at what is trash and what is no longer needed on the journey, pop it into that trash can and hit the empty trash button.
Wow. Well, thank you for this time together, Michael. It's just been fascinating. And I look forward to our dialogue tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
And also, I want everyone to know that we're going to put up a flash screen, how you can get a hold of some of these books. Or Michael, would you like to just mention that?
Yes, we have two websites, thejosephcommunications.co.uk and thejosephcommunications.com. And we're also available on Amazon. And we have regular discussions about the Joseph Communications books and their themes on our YouTube channel, The Joseph Communications.
And I would highly recommend that you subscribe to the Joseph Communications YouTube channel. We're nearing 1,000 subscribers, and we're going for 10,000 or 100,000. So
by next month.
Exactly. So that would really be helpful if and then you would automatically get these messages from the Band of Light, Joseph, and the Joseph Communications. There's so many wonderful topics there. There's meditations there. There's so much information there that you can go into more depth with. So we look forward to our chat tomorrow, Michael, and then our in-person on Friday, September 18th. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
Hello to Jane and to the rest of the Band of Light, David and Tony. And it's amazing what 4 people have produced and put out in, you know, everything come through and published and put out in multiple languages, multiple media in 15 years. So they're amazing, and thank you for sharing this time with us.
Thank you so much, Dale. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye now.